JJ the CPA here. Hope you're doing well. I was going to give you an update where we are on things related to the Paycheck Protection Program. It is April 5th. Basically, what we're hearing is that there were $3 billion worth put in on the first day. We have $349 billion. The thing to note is that there was a bunch waiting to get in. On my client list specifically, no one but one client got in on Friday. There are a few that were able to get those PPPs submitted this weekend for those banks that were working over the weekend. The president had indicated already that if for whatever reason this runs out, that they'll find other appropriations. So nonetheless, you want to go in. It is technically first come, first serve. There is going to be a big push coming this week in terms of people bringing their stuff in, wanting to get it. If you've been working hard and you haven't been able to maybe have any time to think about this, meaning kids are at home and you're working and all that stuff and you're running your business, maybe you've heard of it now. It's going to probably be bigger news in the coming week because in part, there's going to be so many people that are expecting their money in that 48-hour window, which I believe was the intention when the PPP came around. And so I think the theme for this week is to be patient, get your information in. If your bankers need additional information, at this point, I guess, provide it to them. I do think it's fairly basic what it is that you need. But what you might want to have ready to go, even if they haven't asked for it yet, because banks have had to come back to some of my clients, even in the pre-application period, to say, oh, you know what, I think we're going to need this. So I've talked about what I think banks need and what they don't need, but at the end of the day, if your bank's saying they need something and you want to get it done, so you want to get together your W-3 for 2019. That's the payroll. So if you have employees, you would have a W-3. The W-3 is the summary of all of the W-2s. You're going to want all of the W-2s for your company for 2019. That way it is able to be seen quickly and easily, those that were above 100,000. I believe that it's the last 12 months period, the end. Somewhere there's been a sentiment given out there that it is okay for banks to go based on the last year. So I've got two different calculations on my website. There's no way to for you to even know how to contact me on it. I don't ask for a website. It's not a funnel. It's not a game for me to tell you to go to jjthecpahelp.com. It's just there for free. But what I've got there is two different kinds of PPP calculations. One of them is how to calculate it if it is the last 12 months, as in, basically April 19 through March 2020, which is that's the law. But then those banks that for whatever reason are taking calendar year 19, I've got a spreadsheet related to that. It's fairly simple. It's obviously very similar. It's 12 months, but actually if it's going by 2019, it's actually an easier calculation because basically you're just going to go with what's on a W-3. You want the W-2s to back it up. The 941s is the information that's used to prepare the W-2s and the W-3s. So all those things fit together. That's why you're going to want them. There's been no real indication from the government what box. So we have three different ways to define wages. Box 1 of your W-3, which is box 1 of W-2s combined, can be increased or decreased based on certain items. The code specifically addresses chapters 21, 22, 24. Why does that matter? Because it addresses specifics on how to determine wages since the beginning of time. So long story short, I recommend that you use box 5. It's the most pure. If all you had is a retirement plan, okay, pre-tax retirement plan, box 5 is higher, but that's not why you're choosing it. You're choosing box 5 because what's withheld for a retirement plan is not a deduction for PPP purposes, okay? So bottom line is you want box 5, line 5C on the 941s if you're going by that. I've heard through some comments that on the EIDL, so if you've went and got that at the SBA.gov website, with the PPP, you can only get it at a bank. But with EIDL, it's only at SBA.gov. The $10,000, it's an advance. So you can borrow more than that. The $10,000 advance that you're supposed to be able to go online and get it quickly. There is more that could be had. It's just that anything above the 10,000 is not going to be forgivable. And that 10,000 that you're getting from the EIDL, assuming you qualify for it, it's not that it's forgivable, it's just you don't have to pay it back, okay? So that is a good fit. I've got a number of videos, but there is a video that I put out there, and it's PPP break even, and I run through this. But if your total self-employment income and your total payroll costs is $48,000 or less, you should get the EIDL, because that PPP is going to result in less than $10,000 to you. So then you would want to just go with the EIDL. Lots of questions and comments still on, well, why don't I just get both? The problem with getting both is that they are intended for the same expenses. So for the EIDL, if you're getting it, you do have to reduce down how much you're going to get on the triple P, which at first you go, well, that's not a big deal because overall I got the same amount of money. The problem is when you get EIDL money, and even though it reduces down your PPP, whatever you go and try and get forgiven out of your PPP, guaranteed, whatever you got on the EIDL, that'll be the same amount that no way will be forgivable on your PPP. So I've got a number of videos on that. Just keep in mind, I know that there's discussion on, well, what if there was an EIDL and it was obtained and received and spent before April 3rd? Maybe some additional guidelines, but for now on the application, it is something that you are having to break down and make sure that you're accounting for it. So when we're looking here, question 4, has the applicant received SBA injury disaster between January 31st and April 3rd? If yes, provide details on a separate sheet. Okay. Now, if you're thinking this through, if you got one after the 3rd, okay, there's in essence a different area that you've got to figure out how much you need to deduct to arrive at this figure up here. Okay, so when you're arriving at your dollars, okay, you have to subtract that out to then determine your 2.5. Okay, that's the only place that that's going to get deducted out if it's after April 3rd. And I know that on the EIDL, there's question of, well, you know, what if I was using it for other purposes than payroll? You know, I was using it for overhead. Well, rent and utilities, insurance, you know, telephone and internet. Those are things that are a part of overhead as well. So there's not really a room for margin there to try and say, well, I'm going to break out the two uses of it. I don't think that that's really going to be the case. I know the interesting part of that is trying to pull apart is if you got that money and you use that money before April 3rd, should it affect your PPP money? And the short answer is yes, because there's only so much to give out, number one. Number two, the intent is here's how much your business is going to get. You already got 10 of it. Don't snivel and whine about it. You got 10. Go and get your PPP money. Okay, it's going to be reduced. Get over it. It's only fair. Just because you got in line and got a bottle of water and then they came out with another program to get a bottle of water, don't feel as though now you have right to another bottle of water and feel all hard done by. Now, it may be that they came out with another plan and they're saying, hey, this is how you get 2 bottles of water. Well, if you already got a bottle of water, you're only going to get 1 more, okay? So from the other standpoint is I do feel like what would be proper, I haven't seen anything on this, is that if you did get the EIDL before the 3rd, and like you got it before, right? You didn't get it just like on the whiff of the last hour because you're sneaky. But if you got it and you used it, yes, I think it should reduce down to your PPP, but it shouldn't have the second sting, which is that isn't a guaranteed amount that you won't be able to have your PPP forgiven, right? So if you qualify for $75,000 on the PPP and you already took 10 from the EIDL, then you're only going to get 65 from PPP. If you got it previously to PPP, and I mean previous to us knowing about it, okay, and you got your 10, makes sense that it reduces down your $75,000 that you would qualify for PPP, but it wouldn't make sense to sting you because you didn't even know, okay? So that's the part that feels okay. You don't get stung for, well, you got your 65 net of your 10 on your PPP, but you didn't know about this other plan, okay? But this is not the time to get upset about free money coming, okay? Right? As small business owners, we know that, right? You step back and you go, yeah, that's right. And there shouldn't be words like it isn't fair, okay? It isn't fair that I can't do both. What? Okay. All right. Let's see. So when you're talking about going to a bank that you haven't been dealing with before, here's what I saw last week and on Friday and what clients are gathering up. So if you're going to a bank and you haven't banked at that bank before, you have to become a customer. So they're going to need a copy of your driver's license and those driver's license of anybody that's an owner in the business of any significant. Typically a bank, any owners over 5% are going to need to sign up for a bank account with you. This isn't a ploy by the bank to make you a customer. They can't loan you money if you're not a customer of the bank. Maybe there's some program that comes online and you're through a broker and you can go ahead and do that. Okay, great. What I'm telling you is if you're going to go to a bank and do business with them, you're going to need to be a customer. So typically, right now, let's just talk about the businesses. You're going to need to have your bylaws, your operating agreement, your certificate, your articles. Reason for that is that the bank needs to know, well, who are the owners, and the second is, well, who has authorization to sign off on the loan. So even though there's not a guarantee, you still have to have somebody authorized. And when you're looking at the PPP application, it does list, and this was what was new compared to the ones in the prior week, but it has to be anybody that's 20% or more. Those are the ones that have to sign and give this information, separate sheet if needed. So when you're then talking about setting up a new account, it's not just the 20%, right? Typically it's probably all owners, right? But if you have a business with lots and lots of owners, typically then the bank will go with about a 5%. And then if they're a new banking relationship, they probably are going to want a copy of your tax return. It shows the K-1s, who the owners are, a tax ID number. A lot of times with banks in the beginning, they want to see a copy of the letter from the IRS that gave you your tax ID number. If you've been around a long time, a tax return can help. What you need to be ready for is any documentation that the bank needs. Well, I just ran down what it is that they're going to need on a business account. Okay, and if you are paying attention to some guidance that came out from the SBA on Friday, do take a look. I've got a video called Solved It, Still 100% Forgivable. And I've had some CPAs that I've talked to about that one. And we've done 3 episodes of, I just call it probably a new show that I'm going to be releasing. And had a great time visiting with, well, I'll tell you what, I'll let you just watch it. But nonetheless, here's the bottom line on that, okay? There was something put out by the SBA Friday morning, and what it indicated was payroll costs do not include income taxes withheld, Social Security and Medicare taxes withheld or matched by the employer, that those are not payroll costs, okay? What you have to look at, though, is that in that interpretation, what they're doing is, if we look here, okay, this is the actual law that we're dealing with here. Okay, this is the actual law. So when we're looking at the law, you see how right here it says definitions? Okay, all that's been done is providing definitions. Okay, if all we went by is the definitions, we wouldn't need the other 798 pages. Definitions don't solve anything. Okay, so I understand that right here it's going to say, all right, well, here's what's not included. Taxes imposed or withheld under chapters 21, 22, or 24. And we look and we say, well, this is what payroll costs are. This says it's not payroll costs. Well, guess what? If that's all we had and we went home and we had definitions only, I guess we would then say, well, I guess we better conclude here that come forgiveness time, we're going to be in a situation where we won't be able to deduct that. There's no way that is the case. What you need to do is go down to section 1106, and then you can watch my video or review it yourself. Basically, what they're talking about here is that if there is a tax credit that is taken, right? We've got 4 different tax credits that we can take advantage of. And, well, 3, but one of them has 2 limits. So there's 4 different tax credits that we can take advantage of. What it's indicating is that in the covered period, February 15th to June 30, if you've taken a tax credit, you're going to have to reduce down the potential of your payroll costs for loan forgiveness. Because when you take the tax credit, although it's limited to Social Security taxes at the employer level, that tax credit can be taken against and reduce down your payment to the IRS, that then also is decreasing the amount that you're paying in Social Security and Medicare withheld and matched, and the income tax withheld. So if you'll look at payroll costs defined, I've got another video on that, and basically on the update, I'm just trying to let you know kind of where we are. And one of the things that I've followed up with on this weekend and reviewed even doing that video is that it's even more crystal clear. It's just defining that payroll tax, okay, that was withheld in the match, okay? And if you're looking at 21, 22, and 24, right, you're looking at those. If there was a credit against those taxes, you have to reduce down your payroll costs by the amount of credit. So the argument is to keep going back to the definition and to keep going back to the definition and keep going back to the definition. So what you need to do is go down to 1106 and look at where actually it's talking about loan forgiveness. You can't just be stuck up in definitions. Get yourself down to 1106, review it, and what you'll see is, and what's being made clear is, that when you're taking a tax credit, okay, and it is technically limited to Social Security employer, what they're making clear is they don't want someone to get all cute at the end when it comes to loan forgiveness and say, well, I mean, I got a credit, okay, but the credit was really against and limited to my employer Social Security tax. Therefore, that credit should not affect my loan forgiveness. And the answer is wrong. And that's why when you look at the definition, and that's why when you look at the forgiveness, what it's indicating is even though the credit is an offset to Social Security and Medicare withheld and matched and federal withholdings, okay, even though it's an offset to those things, whatever your credit is, whatever it is, will then be not considered payroll costs. It's not saying that withholdings and the match is not payroll cost. For these purposes, it's saying it to the extent. And how do you know that? You got to get yourself down to 1106 and really put yourself in the descriptions of loan forgiveness, okay? So at the end of the day, at the end of this coming week on 4/10, that's when the PPP applications will be accepted for the self-employed. I'm hoping that we get more direction, more clarification in the coming week. It looks as though the application is the same. If we're looking at the latest application, what you would be doing up here is you're going to mark yourself as a sole proprietor, an independent contractor, or eligible self-employed individual. It is very close to all of them being the same description. So I'll probably do a video on that, but here's the bottom line. Sole proprietor would be similar to, it's a kind of a standalone business and you are not filing a separate return. An independent contractor would be, I basically do work for one or two people. I get my 1099s. I'm doing work maybe similar to an employee. Don't get excited when I say the word employee. It's just, I'm just now doing it as an independent contractor because I just do this work that maybe someone would hire as an employee, but I do it for several companies. So it is a business, but it's not a business with, in essence, multiple owners. And then eligible self-employed individual, that's going to be a wider net. Got a video coming out on that. So self-employed individual would be kind of all-encompassing, but really for all three of these things, sole proprietor, independent contractor, eligible self-employed individual, I don't think you need to give yourself too much heartburn. You're going to fall fairly into similar categories unless, remember this is April 5th, unless they come out with guidelines for if you're a sole proprietor, then this is how it works. If you're an independent contractor, here's how it works. And if you're self-employed, here's how it works. So there's probably a reason that there's three different categories there because it may dictate how it is that you determine your PPP. So stay tuned because once I know more, I will share that. Probably what you do want to be looking at is right now, if you're self-employed, you should get your Schedule C either for 2019. If you haven't filed for 2019, you can go and get a Schedule C. You can go online. If your CPA or tax office is closed that you've hired, you don't need to go, get mad at them because they're gone and freak out that you need to schedule, because what you can do is go to irs.gov and you can fill out a Schedule C, and it is in English and in Spanish, and it's written at the 4th grade level. All IRS instructions are. And really it's pretty simple, because on a Schedule C, you're going to list your gross income, and the definition of gross income is what did you collect. It's not just only the 1099s that you got, it's what did you collect. And then there's all these categories of expenses. Put in what the expenses are to arrive at a net. Okay? Now, you can't, if you want to sit around and say, well, I don't know about this and I don't know about that, well, then I guess you'll need to wait until we're past the crisis, and I'm saying with all due respect, until your tax professionals and your CPAs are back in the office to be able to help you with it. Or you can take the bull by the horns and put together a Schedule C, because in essence, what the banks need is what's your net. Based on what we know right now on April 5th, they need to know what your net is. So Schedule C, okay, on your individual return. Also find the Schedule SE if you have it. It's the calculation of self-employment taxes that includes very clearly what your self-employment earnings are. So for some, which may be the eligible self-employed individual, for example, it may be you go into Schedule SE, boom, there's your number, you're done. Now, what you also want to gather up for self-employed individuals, if you haven't already, is 1099s you received. And let's be really clear on this, okay? The 1099s you received would be a 1099K, which would be if you have the ability that your customers that are pay you by credit card, then that company that collects the credit cards for you is going to send you a 1099K. And with that K, 1099K, it indicates what you collected through credit card. Then if you get a 1099 from somebody and it's a 1099 miscellaneous, and typically we're talking about box 7, which is non-employee compensation, that's the 1099 that you want. Do you need a 1099B? No. Do you need a 1099DIV? No. Do you need a 1099B as in boy? No. Do you need a 1099 INT? No. 1099 miscellaneous, says it bigger in Texas, 1099 miscellaneous, and then box 7, non-employee compensation. All I'm telling you is get that stuff gathered up. If you haven't run your numbers for 2019, what you've been doing, okay? It's not hard. You basically put together, and I tell you what, I'll put on the website. I'll do it tomorrow, but I'll put on the website and I'll talk about it in the next update. I'll just put in there what we send to clients, which is kind of it's a full kitchen sink P&L, where you just put in your income and it lists every category you could possibly ever think of. You may not have a lot of those categories, but here's my gross, here's my expenses, here's my net. So self-employed, get ready, look for more to come on that. And then, if you're in farming and cattle and you have a Schedule F, that should be self-employment income. If you're just renting land, farm rental, okay, that's not going to be something that's going to fall into this category. But if you have a Schedule F and you're materially participating, you should be falling into this category. When you look at Schedule E, okay, page 1, or Schedule E, page 2, okay, none of that's going to count for you. And that'll be another episode. Just know this, you're looking at Schedule C, Schedule F, and Schedule SE. Okay, those are the 3 things you'd be looking for in your individual tax return for independent contractors, sole proprietors, and self-employed individuals, as well as the 1099 miscellaneouses that you've received, specifically box 7. Had a lot of questions. If you're an S-Corp owner and you didn't pay yourself wages, or you pay yourself wages and distributions, or you only pay distributions, know this, end of story, this is the answer, period, the end. Your wages that you paid are included in the PPP calculation. It's just included like anybody else, limited just like anybody else. Then the box 1 on your K1 is not considered earned income. It's not considered self-employment income by statute, never has been. So that K1 that goes down to your individual return, and it shows up on Schedule E, page 2, that box 1 is not eligible, according to everything that we know here, for you to get a PPP. Distributions that you take from an S-Corp is return of capital. It is not income to you. It is basically a amount of money that's given to you to represent what has been taxed to you on box 1. End of story. Distributions, no matter what, are not going to count for PPP. Now, if you're getting a K1 from a partnership, what can count is what you're going to look at on Schedule SC at your individual return. If you don't have anything on Schedule SC from a K1 that is from a partnership, I don't see that you're going to be able to get any PPP money because you've not treated it in a way that qualifies for Schedule SC. Schedule SC is self-employment income. If you're looking at a K1 from a partnership and you have a figure in box 4 and in box 14, you're going to probably be able to qualify for the PPP. You would apply it for it at the individual level. Only one tax ID number is able to apply for a PPP, period, the end. So when you have a partnership, you are unable to pay yourself wages as a partner. So you are able to go and get distributions. Well, distributions are a return of capital. If you're paid a guaranteed payment, that is something that would count, but down at the individual level. And then you would be finding that income on Schedule SC, subject to self-employment tax, and box 14, which would match box 1, but not to think that box 1 counts. It's that box 14 is self-employment earnings. So on a K1 from a partnership that has box 4 and box 14, which is self-employment earnings and guaranteed payments, and those are then subject to self-employment tax, I'm thinking on April 5th, you personally, under your Social Security number, will be able to get a PPP for that amount. Side note, on a Schedule K1 from an S Corp, it does not have guaranteed payments or self-employment earnings on it, period. Now, if you're looking at the forgiveness, because there's been a lot of questions about forgiveness and head count and all that good stuff, here's what you need to know. You need to certify that you are going to use this for payroll. And when you certify that you're going to use it for payroll, then that's what you're doing. Okay, so on page 2 of the application, it's indicating the funds will be used to retain workers and maintain payroll, make mortgage interest payments, lease payments, utility payments as specified under the PPP rule. I understand that if funds are knowingly used for unauthorized purposes, the federal government may hold me legally liable, such as for charges of fraud. So this is something that you are only able to use for payroll and these other items. Okay, now also it indicates I understand, okay, I understand that loan forgiveness will be provided for some documented payroll costs, covered mortgage interest payments, covered rent payments, and covered utilities, and not more than 25% of the forgiven amount may be for non-payroll costs. So when I am hearing questions of, well, hey, on my head count and this, and if I let somebody go and all that good stuff, just know this, you still have a responsibility to spend it according to its purpose, which is 75% on payroll costs, 25% on other. You can spend more than 75% on payroll costs, but the money that's being given to you is for that. It's not proper to go, well, based on my head count, I did this, I'm not going to get forgiven for that amount, so I guess I don't have to spend it on that. You're not, when you think of a traditional loan, the loan's given to you, and the bank may have some parameters on it, like, well, it's for the real estate or it's for these assets, but in essence, a regular loan like this, an unsecured loan or a line of credit, unless a bank's put parameters on it, you're able to use it for whatever cost you want, okay? If you think about it, this isn't even a loan, okay? It's a program. And the money's being given to you. And if you use it according to how it's designed, you don't have to pay it back because it's all forgiven. So all I would say right now is, even though I'll have videos later this week about the forgiveness calculations and all that good stuff, what you need to know is that you still have a responsibility for 75% of it to go to payroll and 25% of it to go to the other expenses. More than 75 can go to payroll, okay? Just because you look at it and you go, well, I'd rather pay this and I'd rather pay that, and it's okay because I'll just pay the loan back. Well, what they're indicating is you took the money falsely, you didn't use it for authorized expenses. Now, if we get down the road, you got your PPP money and other circumstances come up, well, we'll just have to deal with it then. So the last thing that I would probably say is I've got on my website, again, you don't give me an email. I don't know who you are. I love you. I don't know who you are, but I don't need to know who you are. I love you, but I don't want to know who you are. I'm not taking on new clients. There's no gimmick here to go to JJ the CPA Help. Zero gimmicks. But there I have on my website a financial kind of worksheet, prediction, cash flow financial worksheet, where you look at where's my cash position going to be in 3 weeks. Well, if you're applying for the PPP, take a look at what's on that spreadsheet, which is where do you stand now? Where's your cash position right now? What do you know that's coming in outside of PPP? What do you know that you've got to pay out? Okay, whether it's payroll or rent or whatever the case is. What are some of the things that are past due that maybe you need to go ahead and take care of? Maybe, I don't know. And then what is your credit available right now? And then adding to it, and I'll update that spreadsheet, making notes here. I'll update that and have a special one that takes into account all those things, but then also putting in your PPP money to break out then your expenses that qualify. And then I'm also going to come up with for my clients, and so I'll share it with you, but a kind of a loan forgiveness tracker. So the thing to know is, for my clients especially, and for any clients, really it's just giving the guidelines similar to with my clients. I say, if your business pays for it and you use it for these purposes and you have receipts and the business paid for it directly, well, then it's a tax deduction. So with my clients, I don't get receipts, I don't review, I don't audit. They provide me either financials or they give me a bank statement without receipts. Long story short is, I'll just be approaching it the same way and saying, okay, well, here's are the things that count. Pretty simple, okay? Utilities. Office supplies? No. Utilities. IT? No. Utilities are utilities, okay? It's the telephone, it's the internet, it's gas, electric, water, right? And then what's the rent? Not CAM, it's rent, okay? Anyways, here's the list, and I'll have a couple of videos coming out on that, but here's what you want to be already thinking through. How are you going to track these expenses? Because without a doubt, at the end, when it's time to go figure out forgiveness or not, and you got to turn it into a loan or not, you're going to sit with a banker. They're going to review everything with you, including what you based your what documents you use to base your loan on, so to speak. And it will be with that bank examiner who's representing the SBA that you have to go through. So you are going to need check copies. There should be zero whining about it and like, oh my gosh. There should be zero complaining about it because you're literally being given a gift. And if you track it and show them here's how you spent it, so it should be, you should be minorly ashamed of yourself if it's time to sit down with the banker and you're scrambling and you don't know what you're supposed to have and you didn't really have it, and then you're complaining to everybody because it wasn't fair, you didn't get forgiveness. You should be minorly ashamed of yourself because you shouldn't even accept this money unless you, when you get it, know how do I need to track it so that I can show that I spent it the way that I was supposed to spend it. And what that includes is bank statements, check copies, invoices, anything and everything related to it. It shouldn't be, well, do you need a copy of this? Yes. Well, what about a copy of that? Yes. If you have a copy of something, if you have a document of something, if you have something in piece of paper, an email, whatever it is, you need to have it. Okay? I'm assuming right now you probably want to have a physical copy to go in and visit with them. Okay? You need to be prepared, and that's the work. Okay? You're going to get, 10 grand, 50 grand, 2.7 million. There should be zero sniveling and whining and complaining and heavy breathing and oh my gosh, now we're going to have this person track this. Okay? Then, I got an easy way that you don't have to worry about any of that. Don't take the money. Okay? So bottom line is I'm already telling you now, but I'm going to have some other videos. Anything to substantiate what it is that you're spending the money on related to this program, you need to keep and have. If you're asking a question, you should just stop and go, yeah, I need to get it. It shouldn't be, well, now do I need the bank? Yes. But what if just get it? But do I need it? Yes. You're just wasting time and effort. Do not try and find the lazy way out and go, well, do I really have to do that? Because guess what? Just don't take the money. Okay? Go get yourself an EIDL that's limited to 10 grand because you don't have to do anything. You don't have to pay it back. You don't have a loan forgiveness. You don't have to show documents. So go get yourself a cool 10K, okay? Which I had someone the other day who was like, it's only 10K. Only 10K? That's a serious amount of money. Point is, you're going to treat this with the respect that it deserves, and you're going to treat that bank examiner with the respect that they deserve, because this doesn't matter about, well, I had this and I had this and I had this, and so I had to use it for that. It doesn't matter. Here's why you got the money. You're saying on the application, I understand it and I'm going to use it for that. Okay? You don't get to use it for something just because you have a hard luck story and you think that you're more deserving, or you have an exception that you think that's going to count, or the banker's going to, have oh, well, that's okay. That's not their job here. Okay? So when you're like, well, what about head count? What about this? And well, what if I do that? It's good to know those things. We're going to review them. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter, because you still need to spend the money that way. And in 3 different shows that I taped today, part of what we talked about is, so if you don't have the payroll, then don't spend the money. And then when it's done, you pay it back. Okay? So bottom line is that now it's getting real, right? We're running. We're going to get to the bank, right? Ooh. Now you're waiting at the bank this week. Be patient. Okay? Even if you put your app in, be patient. It doesn't help to get angry at your banker. They're doing everything they can. It doesn't even help to get angry at the SBA. They're doing everything they can. Everybody's working super, super fast. And so if there's some Scooby-Doo going on around here, meaning like everybody's running so fast and they don't really feel like they're making any traction, there's no reason for you to get upset. I understand you're in a crisis. I understand that there's a lot going on, and I feel bad about that. Okay? But this is the time for patience. Okay? This is the time for understanding. And when somebody says they need something, then you go get it. You say, yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Okay? Now, if you're dealing with the bank that is clearly not doing anything and they're unresponsive, then yeah, pick up stakes and go to the next one. Okay? So at the end of the day, if you're wanting the PPP, here's what you should know. Yes, get in. Get your application in. I think you can remove the panic. Okay? Now, if you're a month from now and you're watching this episode, but at the same time, know this. Get your ducks in a row. Get it into the bank. Follow up nicely. Okay? Do not get angry. I hope that there is money out. So I was on Josh Jelinski has a show, the financial quarterback out of New York, and I was on a show. Great guy. We visited after. And I was on last 2 Saturdays. It was such an honor. What a great guy. But at the end of the day, he and I were talking like, well, when's this money going to come out? It'd be great if it was out by like this coming Wednesday, right? The 8th, let's say. And I don't see that as a possibility. Now it might start kind of trickling out, kind of like a hose that's not been on ever, right? It takes a little time and stuff might kind of spurt out, and then there'll be a delay, and then before you know it, there'll be a nice steady stream. So bottom line is get your money in, but you should probably just rely on the fact that you're probably not going to get money next week. I think you should be really happy if you get it the following week. There's a large amount of money that's coming out. I mean, the IRS, as it relates to these stimulus checks that they're sending out, the first amounts are going out the week of the 15th or the week of the 13th. Direct deposit. The ones that are going by check, it's the week of the 20th. So if you're getting money, like seriously, think about this. If you're getting PPP money before April 20th, okay? I mean, like if you were to apply this week, the week of the 6th, and you got money before the 20th, you got money before the average American citizen, okay? Every average, and when I'm an average American citizen, I'm just meaning like a non-business owner or a business owner, just an American citizen, okay, that met the qualifications in the sense of their income wasn't too high. Business owner, unemployed, it doesn't matter, right? Those checks aren't even hitting until most likely around the 15th or the 20th. So if you're getting PPP money before that, be thankful, be appreciative, do not get frustrated, because at the end of the day, there are other people that don't have the resources that you do as a business owner, okay, that they're getting their money after you. I'm disappointed in that. I wish it was not the case. I wish, because I mean, let's be honest. I'm a business owner, okay? I have more resources than probably employees do out there, okay? Part of just being a business and the line of credit, and if you have a business that collects this, even though you have all these expenses, if you did some of the things I talked about in the beginning, you maybe have a little bit more cash reserve. In some ways, I think that the money should be going out to the citizens, average citizen. I'm an average citizen, like first, like that should already be in everybody's pockets by now, right? So if you're getting PPP money before the 20th, be happy about it. If you're getting it in the week of the 13th and you get it through the week of the 20th, that probably is a realistic, probably be a week. And then maybe 3 weeks from now, we would see a quicker turnaround, right? So be patient, be thankful, and then start taking a deep breath, okay? It's getting better. Now, I understand the coronavirus circumstances are not getting better, okay? But I'm saying the financial part. I'm talking to the business owners. Self-employed, I'm sorry that you're waiting an extra week. It's coming, okay? But for the business owner that has payroll, it's coming. Take a deep breath. I know sometimes right at the end, it's almost like now all the emotion is going to come out right at the end because I've been waiting and stressing and where's this money? And it's right here and I have payroll and I have this. Know this, your employees are going to be so thankful that you're going to be able to pay them. So just let them know, hey, we got the PPP. I'm not sure. You might have a delay in getting your payroll. I'm sorry. But, we're getting after it. Maybe give them a few bucks as an advance, right? They may not have their whole check, but just say, hey, it's coming. Keep them apprised. So it's time to now, at least on the financial side, kind of take a deep breath. If you're catching up on the PPP, then stop doing whatever it is that you're doing. Stop it. If you have kids, then you're staying up till 4 a.m. If you're working 7 jobs from home and you have kids, then you're staying up till all night, okay? Get on this PPP. If you're doing $48,000 or less in net self-employment income, or if your payroll costs are $48,000 or less, then just get over there and get yourself an EIDL because you're going to get more. That's the 10 grand. The $48,000, I'm telling you, or less, is going to result in less. So right now, if you're a small business owner, it's coming. The relief is coming. Take a little time, get the triple P in there. Be patient with your bank. Be patient with your bank. Be patient with your bank. Okay? They're just waiting. Okay? And then I talked to a banker, one of my great friends on Friday, and they're just getting used to and having. It was almost like an hour and a half to do the first one. It's like maybe around an hour. And they think, once that really things are cooking and it's like, wow, we really know exactly how this thing works, maybe 30 minutes, okay? So bankers are working. Bankers were working today, okay? They're after it. They're doing what they can, okay? The big houses are finally doing it online, but know this, you want to make sure they have all the information that they can so that they don't have to set you aside and send you an email and then wait to get your stuff. And then you kind of have to, when are you getting back in line? So that's why I say, get the W-2s, get the W-3s, get the 941s, okay? I don't know if I stopped recording or not. All right, hey, thanks for tuning in. I'd love it if you subscribe. I appreciate so much the support and the watches. I'm going to try and devote some time tomorrow to go through the comments, and then every day at 4 p.m. Central Standard Time, I'm going to go live. If no one comes on, I'll just answer questions that I've been getting in the videos. If people come on, Amanda will help me and we'll go through the questions as much as we can. I'll probably just shoot to stay on for like an hour. I don't know if, maybe a few people will show up from the standpoint of just answering some questions, but then at least there's a time that if you could submit a question, that I'll do my best to try and get to it when we're live on YouTube. So, all right, hey. Patience this week, but we're there, all right? We're there. JJ the CPA, out.